I ask for your hand in marriage. A Percy Jackson Percabeth, Royal Alternate Universe Fanfiction, Part 4. You're really annoying. That was the first thing that Percy heard when he woke up. He blinked the sleep out of his eyes. Annabeth had collapsed on the foot of his bed. Wow, you're loving, he said sarcastically. She groaned into his bedsheets. No, really, you suck. Like you're annoying. Ghastly annoying, Annabeth continued. Percy made offended noises and reached for one of the pillows next to him to throw at her. I had to plan your meeting with the next princess, and it was so freaking hard, Annabeth said, swatting the pillow away just in time. She sat up and sighed, looking back at him with a very annoyed expression. Why did you not just pick Hazel? She was very sweet. Our kingdoms would have been so powerful together. You know your dad was hoping for you to marry her, right? She said. Percy frowned. She was nice, I'll say that for sure, but it just wasn't right, he told her. Annabeth huffed. I guess that makes sense, she said begrudgingly. Plus, Percy said with a grin, she likes one of the animal caretakers in her kingdom. I told her to go for it, he added. Annabeth's expression softened. Did she? She asked. I hope, Percy replied. A soft and sweet smile made its way onto Annabeth's face. That is very sweet of you. Real love should never be thrown out for the sake of power or kingdom politics, she admitted. Percy nodded, but his mind began to wander. Hazel seemed so genuinely sure that he and Annabeth were something. They weren't, that was for sure. But would he rebel against the good of the kingdom just to marry her? Sure, Hazel wasn't the firstborn royal, so she didn't have to worry about that part, but Percy did. Although his parents had never explicitly told him, Percy knew that he had to produce the next heir to rule. Just if, he and Annabeth were to hypothetically, be something, and his parents wanted him to marry a royal princess. Would he rebel, or would he listen to them? After all, he did have a duty to the people and was the only son. If, by the end of this whole thing, and you still do not find a wife, I am going to end you myself, Annabeth said, snapping Percy out of his reverie. Huh? What? Say again, he said with a playful smirk. She rolled her eyes and shoved Percy over. It is just so much work. And the ball, Jesus Christ. I'm going to be buried in work by the time the ball planning comes. Pick a nice one, she said, looking at him with an intense glare. I am not dealing with a bridezilla when the wedding comes around. That made Percy sputter and his eyes went wide. Sure, wife, betrothal, all of that meant marriage, but he didn't realize everyone was thinking so far ahead to the wedding just yet. Wedding? He cried out. Annabeth raised a brow at him as if to say, Are you stupid? Yes, wedding. What you do to have a legal wife, she said, mocking him playfully. Percy rolled his eyes. Wow, thanks for telling me what a wedding is. I didn't know what it was before. It's a revelation. An entire revelation. Of course. How could we expect something else? Percy frowned at her deeply as she snickered to herself. I'm tired. You're annoying. I want to sleep, he said, leaning back into his pillows and covers. Annabeth scoffed and threw the pillow back at his face. Well, me too, but I have work to do, she said. Percy lifted his hand lazily. Skip it all, he told her. Annabeth gave a sharp laugh. No, I genuinely can't because you are my work. And you are putting more work on me because you are an idiot who cannot choose a freaking queen, she said. Percy frowned at her. I can choose a queen, he defended himself. Annabeth rolled her eyes playfully. Tell that to my emails and schedules. Do you know how condescending all of the other royal advisors are? I mean, I know I am young. You can all stop reminding me, she complained. Percy scowled, mentally noting to be extremely passive-aggressive to the advisors in the future. I can, though. Really, I can, Percy continued. You can do all the queen stuff till I get a girlfriend. You already know what to do. It's basically what you do now. See, I picked a queen, Percy said. Annabeth smacked him in the head. No, I've already told you that we cannot do that, she said strictly, and I told you why. Still, Percy pouted at her. I think that's a great idea, though, he said. She looked at him blankly. Your subjects would beg to differ, she said dryly. With a roll of his eyes, Percy grabbed her arm and pulled her down next to him. Only he was under the covers with a ratty old t-shirt and fleece PJ pants, while Annabeth was in an olive green jumpsuit. Nap time, he announced like a child. She rolled her eyes but snuggled into the comforter's surface. But really, you need to think about your future queen, or else all of my hard work is for nothing. Nap time. Percy, nap. Annabeth looked at him with scolding eyes. Percy pouted. Oh, come on, you know, the only person I've ever thought about doing all this queen and ruling and royal business and other stuff while I rule is you. Give me a break, he cried out. Annabeth scoffed and sat up, much to his dismay. You are not even listening to me, she said, tugging on his hair. Percy yelped and batted her hands away. Yes, I am, he pouted. Annabeth shook her head. No, you are not. She let out a long-suffering sigh. I am not allowed to be your queen, or even take over some of her roles. You have to get that out of your kelp-filled head. She tugged on Percy's hair again, shaking her own head of golden locks as Percy shrieked. In total honesty, her words made him feel deflated. In fact, he didn't really know why, though. It wasn't like he didn't know that Annabeth had practically beaten it over his head that she couldn't help him with those duties. It apparently didn't stop him from relying on her for them and mildly preferring her to do them. Really, though, she was his best friend. It made sense for them to work on ruling an entire kingdom together. You are not listening to me again, Annabeth's laughing voice cut through his thoughts. She smiled at him softly. As much as I appreciate you thinking I can do that stuff, and as much as I know that I will do well ruling, I cannot. Percy nodded. He knew that. You need to get up, though. For real. And get changed, Annabeth announced, getting off the bed and standing at the foot of it, much to Percy's displeasure. He tried reaching for her arms to pull her back into the comforter again, but she stepped back and out of his arm's reach. Come back, he whined. Annabeth reached forward with an arm, grabbed his outstretched one, and pulled him to the ground in one smooth, quick motion. Percy cried out as he hit the ground hard and fast. Get ready for the day, Annabeth snorted, turning around and walking away. Percy smiled from the ground, spotting her silently shaking shoulders, and he just knew she was trying to not burst out laughing. He appreciated that she always pushed him to do things, even when he didn't want to, but did it out of love. Perhaps that was one of the reasons why Hazel wasn't right for him or as a queen of his kingdom. Percy liked to have fun, Annabeth could attest for that. He perhaps needed someone who wasn't so nice and would push him to do his best, and after all, that was what Annabeth did. He needed a person like Annabeth as his queen. In his own personal opinion, he just needed Annabeth as a queen, or at least royal caretaker for the rest of his life, because he was a disaster. After all, she was one of the few people in his life that lamented that he wasn't lazy, just unfocused. Get off the floor, seaweed brain. Ooh, harsh. I mean it. Yes, ma'am.